Is ramping up his attacks on the media, once again calling journalists dishonest and the coverage unfair, as some pundits question, yet again, whether the Donald's campaign is starting to decline. The question comes up in an interview airing tonight on 60 Minutes.
You know, some of the media is among the worst people I've ever met. And I mean, a pretty good percentage is really a terrible group of people. They write lies, they write false stories, they know they're false, it makes no difference. And frankly, I don't call it thin-skinned. I'm angry.
But a reporter asked you a couple of hard questions at the first debate, and the whole week after that, it's war on that reporter.
Well, I don't think that was a fair question.
An impression is created, though, that you like to dish it out, but you can't take a punch.
Joining us now to examine the campaign coverage, Kathleen Parker, the syndicated columnist and Pulitzer Prize winner. Susan Faricio, chief congressional correspondent for the Washington Examiner. And Simon Rosenberg, president of the New Democratic Network. Kathleen, in Oklahoma, Donald Trump referred to moron pundits. He's spoken out against Politico, calling it maybe the most dishonest media outlet. The New York Times, Fox News again, CNN. Is running against the media successful strategy for Donald Trump?
Well, it works very well for him with his base, because anytime you can blame the media, they've been blaming the media forever. You know, the mainstream media is always the enemy to the far right. And Donald Trump recognizes this, and he's using it to his advantage. I don't think it's going to hurt him a bit with those people, but it also suggests to everyone else that he really is thin-skinned, and you can't blame the messenger just because, well, in this case, the questioner, just because you don't like the question. And, you know, just calling everyone dishonest and liars and all that, that's sort of a broad brush, isn't it?
Right. He doesn't say everyone. He qualifies it by saying many of the people in the press are dishonest. Susan, he was calling into the CNN morning show. So on CNN, he called CNN reporter Randy Kay a horrible reporter and a disgusting reporter. This because she had reported, along with other journalists, that there were some bunch of empty seats at a South Carolina event. Trump disputes this, saying a lot of people had stood up. But as Kathleen says, his fans love it when he attacks the media establishment.
They love when he punches back hard. And I will note, of course, this does resonate with his base. But the most recent interesting poll about this, the USA Today poll in July, found that 70% of respondents believe that the media is intentionally biased. So he's not just talking to a small group of people. An overwhelming number of Americans think the reporters are not telling them the truth. So when Donald Trump comes out and says, hey, that reporter's lying, that reporter's terrible, that reporter's horrible, it's resonating with a lot of people. Think, you're right, the media's not doing a great job.
Simon Rosenberg, Trump is again boycotting Fox News, at least for the moment. He had started tweeting negative things about Megyn Kelly and various Fox contributors. He said the coverage was unfair. Fox fired back with a statement saying that his attacks on Fox anchors and hosts have gotten stale and tiresome. Now, Trump and Roger Ailes, the chairman of Fox News, are going to meet this week for a candid discussion about the coverage. Do these on-again, off-again boycotts help Trump?
I'm a little disappointed he hasn't gone after you, Howie. You know, he's gone after everybody else. We got time. No, look, I think Trump is starting. I think the worry should be, if you're a Trump supporter, that this is sounding a lot like whining. I mean, there's a point where this is crossing over now, I think, where it does sound thin-skinned. It does sound like whining. It doesn't sound virtuous, like that he's sticking up for himself, because it's every day. And that interview with CBS you showed earlier, it's come on, it's over the top. Yeah. So I think he's in danger of crossing over to a place that's going to start hurting him.
And it all started with the Megyn Kelly question during the first debate, where she asked, you know, is this the temperament of a president when he's made these comments about women? I'm sorry, but I think that's a perfectly legitimate question, because the leader of the country needs to be someone who doesn't speak disparagingly of anyone. And then he's only moved, you know, he's doubled down on his assault on women when he talked about Carly Fiorina's face. So he really does come across a bit as a misogynist, and I don't care what he says about adoring women.
Well, he would certainly dispute that. There have been a lot of anti-Trump commentators filling the airwaves, including here on Fox. I mean, I thought Rich Lowry, the editor of National Review, went too far when he said on Megyn Kelly's show, he used a crude term to describe how he felt that Carly Fiorina had cut off a certain part of Trump's anatomy in that second debate. He didn't have to put it in such ballsy terms, forgive me. And Trump ripping him and saying he should be taken off the air. A lot of his complaints have to do with polls and the fact that he is doing better in some online polls, which I regard as far less reliable than telephone survey polls. There is a new, and this is not an online poll, NBC Wall Street Journal poll out this morning, has Trump in a virtual tie with Ben Carson, 21% for Trump, 20% for Ben Carson. And then he often gets into these disputes about the size of the crowds.
Right.
And so what's interesting is I don't think the public is necessarily going to get really tired of his whining. I think they've accepted that about him. They find it appealing. He needs to do more to keep himself ahead of the pack or moving ahead of the pack. And his big problem, as I said before, and he doesn't like to hear this, is that he lacks substance. And that is probably what is letting other people like Ben Carson start to tie him and maybe get ahead of him. And so I don't think it's the whining that people are getting sick of. They're just wondering, what else is there?
Well, I think you're exactly right, because the whining indicates that he has nothing better to talk about.
Right.
Right?
When you guys say he lacks substance, and a number of guests have said that, what a lot of his people hear is, well, he's not providing the level of specific policy details that will make the media happy, but in broad strokes, he talks about, building a wall with Mexico, going after China, going after ISIS. There's no rule that says you've got to, put out these 25-page position papers.
Well, and I think there's also an assumption that given his success in life, that he's bringing to the table, he knows what's going on in the world, that he's not a kid, he's not a right-wing ideologue, right? I mean, he's a proven guy who's done real things in the real world.
Right, and that is part of his appeal.
And that's part of his appeal, and I think people have to, I'm sort of in your camp on this, Howard, is that I think that, Trump is continuing to surprise people. We'll see how long it goes, but it certainly looks like things are tightening up a little bit for him, and that some of his momentum,